If you can remember that food is fuel, you can find your mind when you're having the thought that food is a good idea. You check in with your physical body.
Right.
You identify that you're safe, that you know that food is coming, and that maybe you're having the thought because your chest is tight.
Right.
Now you have the ability to say, oh, this is stress. What would be the proper way to handle this moment?
The following podcast is a Healthy Dog production. Welcome to the Healthy Dog Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nigma Talib. I'm a leading naturopathic doctor now for over 20 years, and I've consulted thousands of patients with chronic illnesses. I've had clinics all over the world, and I have a #1 bestseller, Younger Skin Starts in the Gut. Listen, I know there's a lot of health information out there in the health and wellness world, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So I'm here to set the record straight and give you my expertise along with my expert guests here in studio in sunny Los Angeles.
I only take drugs with other people who take them on a regular basis because I don't have time for that.
A lot of chronic diseases stem from mitochondrial dysfunction.
Yes. And you know what I love talking about, right? Poop.
Yes. You can ask me about my poop?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about poop.
Okay, please.
This podcast is your go-to for achieving optimal wellness from the best of beauty and longevity and everything in between, because after all, wellness comes from the inside out. Welcome to the Healthy Dog Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nigma Talib. Today, I have a very appetizing episode. I have a very special guest. She is a celebrity dietitian, nutritional therapist, an author, and a Bachelor of Science in kinesiology. She has spent over 25 years helping people lose weight and keep the weight off, which is, as we know, hard to do. And I think she has that university background in metabolism health, which I think is a really key aspect to keeping the weight loss. She's also worked in her own private practice, in hospitals, universities, addiction centers, and I'm so excited that she's with us today. She's appeared as a guest on other shows for Yahoo and Just Jenny, Sky News, Pop Sugar, Vanity Fair, and I am thrilled that she's here today. She's also a good friend of mine, so let's give her a warm welcome. Her name is Kim Shapira.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm so excited to be here with you.
Me too. I just thought, since we're friends and all, why don't we start off with a cocktail? Do you want one?
I would love one.
Really?
Yeah. What do you got?
I know which one I'm going to give
I
you,
think
right?
maybe. Why don't
Really?
you tell me which one it is?
What's your favorite cocktail in the world?
Your vitamin C cocktail.
Okay, I'm going to hand that over to you. There you go. Good catch.
Yum.
This is, I thought we would have a cocktail while we're discussing, we're going to be mindfully drinking our cocktail, but at least it's vitamin C infused, right? Dietitian approved.
Dietitian approved. You know, my 15-year-old has this every single day in her Hydro Flask, and she takes it with her to school.
Oh, great. I love it. And little does she know she's improving her skin collagen as well. Does she know that?
I mean, she might actually. Yeah.
I think these 15-year-olds, they know so much more than we do.
Oh, wait, I put it in here. You're putting it in there.
I'm putting it in.
Oh, man, I screwed up. We're going to do it in the
Here,
glass.
I can pass you a spoon.
Yeah,
How's
pass
that?
me a spoon.
I'll pass you a spoon.
We're just going to see how well it's going to shake.
I think it stirs up quite well in a cup as well.
Yeah, you know why? Because the first time I met you, I had it like this. You made it for me.
Right.
With ice.
That's right. Well, I've evolved since then.
I'm going to get up, I think.
Okay, here you go.
Thank you.
Great. So I'm now going to
excited.
pour it in my cup. Cheers to good health.
Yes, and beauty.
Just what I needed.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
I know it's passion fruit flavored, so it's like you're getting a boost of liposomal vitamin C. It's 1,500 milligrams,
So good.
and you're getting a ORAC value of 6,000, which is
Tell me what that is.
the ORAC value is an antioxidant measurement of different foods, and you have, for example, I believe broccoli is like 600 to 900 ORAC, and this is about 6,000.
You know what's interesting is how much my mouth is salivating.
Yes.
And, people don't understand how important it is to have their mouth water.
Yeah.
And so even like having this is just a full commercial, because I think
I love it.
How it actually increases the saliva.
It does.
Which really is really important for your gut because most people are not salivating before they eat and they're having tons of GI distress. But before we jump into that, this is delicious. Thank you.
I am so happy. And I'm so happy that you're here because when I came to your book launch, it was a couple of years. It feels like
1 year ago.
It was a year ago. It feels like 2 years ago.
It does. It's a lot's happened.
And the book in and of itself, I read it cover to cover and you signed it for me. It was very sweet. And it just has so many tips in there. And we're going to get into that in a moment. And, people can read this like over and over again. It's not a book that you read once. It's a book that you read and then you make notes and you read it over and over again.
Yeah.
It's practice almost.
I remember studying for chemistry and there's a thing with chemistry that if you don't really understand chapter 1, you should not move on to chapter 2.
Right. Of course, in chemistry, you can't.
Right. And I would say it's very much the same.
Okay.
Right? Like you have to have that solid foundation.
Yeah. I was able to jump around in your book a lot, though.
But you're well educated.
Fair enough.
And have a normal relationship with food.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get to it. Let's get our knives and forks out, audience listening, because we're going to dig into talking about how we have our relationship with food, why it's super important, some rules that we can have around our relationship with food, and different, hints and tips on how to keep healthy as we move into the new year as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So tell us, you have 6 rules. Let's talk about them.
I would say I almost have like 6.0 rules. And like rule 0, which I never really talk about, is mindfulness. And like it's underrated and overrated at the same time, but I think the single most important thing to being able to move through the rules. So if we call mindfulness rule 0, it really means knowing where your mind is without judgment.
Okay, so whenever people hear the word mindfulness, I think they switch off because it's such an abstract word. So can you give us an example of?
Yes, how about this? How about I'll test you. So from your rational mind,
right?
Answer, fill in the blank. Food is
tasty.
Rational mind. Doctor mind.
Doctor mind. Food is nutritious.
Yes. Okay, now your irrational mind. Food is
fattening.
The enemy.
Okay, sorry,
Comfort.
I'm not getting this.
No, you're right. All of that is right. It's tasty. It's the enemy. It's comfort. It's entertainment.
Right.
And so anytime somebody thinks food is anything other than fuel,
got it,
they're not in their right mind. So before we can even move into rule 1, we have to know where our mind is, so to speak. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Calling it what it is versus what you think it is.
Right.
And making stories around food.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. 221 of them are food thoughts. And I would say anytime we think about food, we have to check in and see why, because it's really an alarm that's going off and it means we're not okay.
Right. So, it's something like if you needed to go pee or something like that, right? Like we can like check in right now and go, do you need to go pee? Yeah. And you'll be like, well, yeah, I do, but you don't need to go right away.
Right.
So you can hold it, but eventually, the hunger is the same thing, right?
Exact same thing. It's a message from your body letting you know that you need to check in and make some plans, right? Because your basic survival is at risk. And also, nobody wakes up in the morning. Not a lot of people wake up in the morning, I should say, and think, oh my God, I'm going to have to pee 6 times today. I wonder what toilet I'm going to use and if I'm safe. But we all fear there won't be enough food or what the food will be, right?
Right. Where's that coming from, this fear around food? Like if you were to...
It's a good question. I think it's a projection.
Right.
It's a projection of maybe your parents' limitations, your peers' limitations, or what their parents are telling them. And so from a really young age, we start hearing this gives me a stomach ache, or that food is bad, or this food is fattening, or we should only be eating this food. And we don't know what's ours and what's theirs.
Right. And also with little kids as well, like you're kind of taught that, this is your lunch and,
right.
It's kind of like that little
It gets very confusing.
This is mine and this is yours. Yeah.
Right. It's very confusing.
So let's talk about some of the rules.
Okay.
And one of another rule you have is eat what you love.
Yeah.
That's a little bit interesting. So if I love gummy bears,
I mean, I love you. Okay, but first we have to go to rule 1 because that's rule 2.
Sorry.
So, but I'm going to get back to the gummy bears in like 10 seconds. So rule number 1, after you know where your mind is and you know you're hungry and it's not stress related or boredom or just because the food's in front of you, then you eat when you're hungry.
Right.
And we technically should be hungry every 3 to 4 hours because we need small sips of food all day long to run our bodies, right? And we can't have all of that food at one time. So we need, in order to maintain our blood sugar, to be hungry every few hours to maintain that safety feature, right?
And we have those 2 hormones, right? Ghrelin and leptin that tell us, like, ghrelin are kind of I think of ghrelin as the gremlins that are living in the stomach because that's where they're found.
Yeah.
And they tell us when we're hungry. This is a hormone that's found in the stomach.
Yeah.
And some people don't have that high enough amounts of ghrelin, that's where I think of a lot of food disassociation can start to happen.
Yeah. And also if they're emotionally triggered. But okay, so if you think about ghrelin, and this is our stomach, when it goes down a little bit, those little gremlins, start signaling your mind.
Yes.
Start thinking about food.
Right.
Just like you're having to pee. You don't know how you know, but you do know. And so ghrelin is the get ready to eat hormone, and leptin is the hormone that tells us we've had enough.
Right.
And it takes about 15 minutes for our stomach and our mind to connect that we've had enough. So the rule is to eat when you're hungry. Take your normal portion, cut it in half, and wait 15 minutes to see if you need more. So it deals with all of the physiological aspects of hunger and fullness. And when you're mindful and doing it right, you have a fail-safe in that 15-minute wait. So it's from the first bite, and we all eat very quickly. And if we can slow down the rate at which we're eating, smell our food, have our mouth water, chew our food even longer, we're going to cut down on so many digestive issues, right? And then their fail-safe that we won't be overeating is in that wait time. We want to just slow down the rate at which we're eating to get to that 15 minutes. And then rule 2, now this is the interesting piece. And so many people, everybody makes choices from a place of fear or trust, right? So rule 2 is to eat what you love with the caveat that the food has to love you back, but only when you're hungry and you start with half of your normal portion. So there is a fail-safe. If you were choosing gummy bears when you're hungry, you're only going to start with half. So you're not going to overeat them. But the truth is, nobody's hungry in their stomach for gummy bears.
Right. Well,
that is a craving.
It's a craving, exactly.
That's not hunger.
Right.
We're totally talking about something totally different, right?
Absolutely.
I'm talking about physical hunger that is not painful and not scary, that is isolated to your stomach, right? It can become scary for sure. I mean,
absolutely.
If I have to pee really bad, it will be all I can think about. I will become so narrow-minded that you can't even communicate with me, right? And hunger on purpose is meant for us to pay attention because we're threatening our survival.
That's a really good way of putting it, actually. True wellness lives in the smallest details: the air you breathe, the water you wash with, and the surfaces you touch. That's why Koala Eco, with their beautiful botanical ranges for home, laundry, body, and even pets, is the only brand I trust. Elegant living without compromise. Visit koalaeco.com, that's KOALAECO.com, and use my code HealthyDog15 for 15% off your first order. And really, you've drawn in some of the mindfulness of the hunger. Being able to taste, salivate, have hunger pangs. These are all normal physiological activities that are happening in our body.
Right. My mouth is so watering from this.
I know, it's so tangy.
It's so good. That's so good. I mean, I'm going to do like my own commercial on this because I don't think people understand or can appreciate. Sometimes I just tell people to think of lemons or pickles.
Right.
To get their mouth to water so they can understand what I'm actually wanting from them. And this is just like, can't stop talking about it. It's so good. It's telling my body it's time to digest, right? It's giving my body that prep.
Which
So
that's
good.
part of the whole
Yes,
digestion
yes.
mechanism. Everybody thinks digestion starts once the food's already in the stomach and the intestine. It starts in your mouth. Actually starts in your thoughts.
It does start in your thoughts. And like in the old days, we used to think about what we were going to cook, and then we would spend time hunting and gathering and really having time to prep for our food. And now we're ordering it on, any
Uber Eats.
Yeah. And then it's here and we're so distracted and we're
Yes.
not smelling our food. And like what you said, we need to break down our food. And so we need to be able to have that saliva, but we need to chew our food. That's why we have teeth. And like we're supposed to chew our food between 15 and 44 bites per chew.
Like who really does that?
Well, that's the thing. People say they love food. And I
Yes.
love food, right?
Yes.
But people say they're a foodie
Yes.
and they are not chewing their food.
Yes.
So the reward is actually in the anticipation. I get to eat that, and they need to spend time actually with the food in their mouth. And it's really, 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 really boring. Really boring.
And and the food and the flavor goes away after you've been chewing
Right.
it for a bit. I actually like chewing my food, personally speaking. Like, especially if I'm going to have something that's really hard to digest, like a steak.
Yeah.
you
44 bites
really
per.
need to- that's 44
Yeah.
chews per.
It is. Yeah.
right.
And
per
if
bite.
you're not breaking it down, and we call it like almost deanimation, right? So if you're not breaking it down, your body can't recognize the whole pieces, and that's why it creates inflammatory responses.
Yeah,
right?
And that's exactly what happens because your enzymes cannot break it down. So it's now sitting in there fermenting. Like think of leaving an old lunch bag in your car, right? You don't take it out of the car and it ferments and it gets moldy. That's what happens to food that actually doesn't get broken down and get passed to the next level. It then causes perforations in the intestine, and there you have leaky gut, and then you have this whole autoimmune connection.
Right. So you could have mood disorders. You can have, bacterial overgrowth, fungal overgrowth. Your pH balance could be off. Like just chewing your food could be a game changer for digestion.
It's huge. I see it with my own patients. It's funny. All my SIBO and SIFO patients, which is small intestinal fungal overgrowth for people listening, and SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Those patients are the ones that don't chew their food.
Well, that's because, most people are chronically stressed right now. And so not having those digestive enzymes in your saliva, not having saliva is actually you're supposed to be paying attention to that and saying, oh, I'm not ready to eat.
Right.
But we're eating anyway. We're bypassing that coping mechanism. And so then we're not able to have all the things we need in our stomach and the alerts that we're getting food. So if we go back, though, to eat what you love with a caveat that the food has to love you back, I understand why that sounds so scary. And people think I'm giving them permission really to eat gummy bears all day.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's okay.
Right.
Because if they did eat gummy bears all day and they did it when they were hungry and they started with half, they would still lose weight. And then they would notice that the gummy bears probably are not satisfying and maybe even are making them sick. And now they have a choice. Do I want to stay in a relationship with something that doesn't love me back? Am I willing to do that? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And what also makes sense is you're giving people free will and choice. When you tell somebody you can't do something, that's when the problem starts.
Exactly.
When you give them the choice and you make it like, let's try this on. Like you and I go shopping and I say, Kim, that dress is going to really look good on you. That color, that pink color is going to look amazing. You'll be like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, just try it on.
Right.
And it's almost like you're trying it on. It's kind of like you're doing an experiment, you're figuring it out. And I read that in your book, which I really love, is that you want to put all the emphasis and the control in the driver's seat of the person who's eating. You don't want to, be too restrictive with that, right?
At all.
And so
You can't sustain it.
because you can't sustain it.
Yeah, that's willpower. I'm looking for inner power. I'm looking for confidence and posturing. I'm looking for somebody to walk into a restaurant and say, this is what makes me feel great. So I don't care how you feel about what I'm going to eat.
I think it's important to ask the client. I mean, I ask my patients a lot, how does that make you feel when you eat that? Well, I get bloated and I get this. And I'm like, oh, so you're going to eat it again tomorrow. Okay, well, let me know how it makes you feel tomorrow.
Right.
Because, you want them, it's almost like a practice, right? We're all in automatic pilot mode.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, we are.
Like sometimes I'll drive somewhere and I'm like, how did I get here?
Yes. Yes.
Because we're just so in automatic pilot mode. So I think it's important to really be mindful of, how these foods are making you feel.
Right. I think it's
do they love you back?
I think it's the most important place to start because there's a lot of attachment to words like good, bad, healthy, unhealthy, I should, I shouldn't.
Right.
And we really need to call food food and allow people to try it on and then make a decision. And I'll often say, if something's bothering you, try half and see if it still bothers you. Then people come away from that and say to themselves, there's a million choices. I don't have to go back to that. And then we can work on healing their gut.
That's the way I've always treated patients. I know when I wrote my book, Younger Skin Starts in the Gut, I do have like gluten face, sugar face, wine face, and dairy face. But the only reason why I talk about those food is because this is how a food product that's been studied has made most of my patients feel after they eat it. How do you feel when you eat these products?
Right.
And I think it's putting it back, the onus on them.
Yeah, it has to. And, we all have different amounts of stress, and stress is perceived. I'm worried about that man walking close to me. It's physical, like I'm in pain. It's imaginary, like what am I going to have for dinner next Thursday on my girls' dinner? And I'm worried about that, right? And so our level of stress can hurt our mucosal layer in our stomach. So could, antibiotic use and a poor diet. So we all have different and varying amounts of leaky gut, I would say. And what's healthy to one person is absolutely not healthy to the next person. But
one man's poison's another man's medicine.
Yeah.
Like garlic, for example.
Yes.
I can't tolerate garlic.
Yeah. You know what? That's interesting. That is always interesting to me as far as like with fungus, because fungus, you can't, it hates, garlic and fungus do not get along.
No.
But sometimes, we can't tolerate garlic because of fungus.
It can be, or it could be, there's a pathway where, certain people like myself would lack molybdenum.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a tough one to say. And
don't ask me to.
when say it 6 times.
No.
So when you're losing that detoxification pathway, and because I've done all my genomic testing, I can understand why garlic.
Totally.
And if you look at also the Buddhist monks, they don't have garlic in their food because it upsets their ability to concentrate. In terms of their vibration and their ability to meditate. So,
that's interesting. I actually love learning that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Different things like garlic and ginger. They're
Hot.
carminatives and they're very hot.
Yeah.
And they're very yang, excess yang. And also as a naturopathic doctor, we study PCM. So it's interesting how certain foods don't make you feel well.
Right. I mean, blueberries give me diarrhea.
I saw that.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. They're that was a very high sensitivity for me. It's moving down more into mild.
Right.
So, but I don't want to eat foods that cause inflammatory issues for me right now.
I've built my entire clinical philosophy and even wrote a book called Younger Skin Starts in the Gut around one simple truth. If your gut isn't optimal, nothing else works. Genova Diagnostics GI Effects Test is the gold standard in functional stool testing, mapping your microbiome, digestion, inflammation, and nutrient absorption with clinical precision. It's a crappy job, but someone has to do it. And no one does it better than Genova. Visit genovaconnect.com and use my code HEALTHYDOC15 for 15% off your first stool test. While we're on this topic of diarrhea, you've hit the nail on the, you know me, I like talking
Me too.
shit all the time. So I brought the Bristol
love
stool
that.
chart just for fun. Okay?
Love it.
So I want to talk about diarrhea because now that we're on that topic, and I've got somebody who speaks my language.
Let's do it.
It's my love language, talking shit. So we've got diarrhea. Talk to us about, as a dietitian and nutritionist, give us the 411 on what is diarrhea and why are people getting it?
I mean, food sensitivity is number one. Could be medications, could be stress. It's the, gut brain access. It's actually a pretty good sign that someone's constipated as well. And people don't really understand that. It's lack of fiber in a diet, or most likely it's coming from a vitamin or supplement or an ingredient that you're sensitive to. And could be because of, SIBO or SIFO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, I read in your book that, and this was really interesting to me because I had never thought about it, is drinking too much water before you eat.
Dumping
so if you
syndrome.
had if you chugged back a liter of water and then you ate a full meal, you're doing a dump.
You're doing a dump.
Literally.
You're literally giving all that food a vehicle to exit quickly. So if somebody does suffer from loose stool or on the Bristol poop chart, I would say, 6 or 7. Like if your stools look like milkshakes or yogurt, and hopefully, I mean, we both love like a long S-shaped silent sinker. But if you're having rabbit pellets or, golf balls, you need more fiber and water. And if you're having the milkshake and the yogurt, it's very likely you could be having dumping syndrome, but you also need fiber.
Okay.
How do you feel? I really do love one a day, one silent sinker. And I know that there's some people who say multiple, and I always think that that's a form of constipation.
In terms of how many bowels?
Yeah.
I think it really depends on how much you eat.
Interesting.
So what you take in, you need to take out, right?
Yeah.
And, I monitor mine. I monitored the dogs, he was a bit constipated, for example, yesterday. And I was like, I'm going to take him for a really long walk because he hasn't eliminated all that food he had yesterday. And he had a really tough time going today, but we went for a long enough walk that movement, that exercise eventually allowed him to relax and release. But I think there's different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean? I feel like if you eat a high protein diet and, you eat 5 or 6 times a day, you have to be going twice a day. But someone like you and I don't think we eat that much, and we don't actually require that much food unless you're like a marathon runner,
right?
Or when those people are exercising and they're moving, so they're going to have more bowel movements. Their migrating motor complex is going to be working better and more optimal. And so people that are more sedentary or sitting at desk jobs are not going to have that ability to poop a couple times a day, but if you put all the pieces together, you get the movement, you get the water, you get the fiber, and you're eating regularly and
consistently.
Then
because
you will
actually,
have that.
I mean, not to cut you off, but just you're reminding me that bowel movements are a habit, and like everything else, like sleep is also a habit, and so being in the habit of going is really important, and making the time to go.
That's an important one. Men do that. Like they'll go in with like a magazine. Well, back in the day, a magazine, whatever. They'll go in the bathroom for hours. I mean, I don't know what they're doing in there. I don't want to know. But, I've noticed that men really take their time on the toilet, whereas women are like in and out. They're
As you should be, in and out.
Yeah.
You should be able to go no longer than the ABCs. And if you can't go to the bathroom by the time you get to Z, you're putting yourself at risk for hemorrhoids.
Yeah. But that's still women are rushing it because they're like running after the kids. Or, we need to take our time. And I think also get one of those stools. That's why it's called stool, to rest your feet on.
Is that why it's called stool?
I think so. I just made it up. Okay, viewers.
I like that.
I believe that
makes sense.
It makes sense, right? And it allows you to go better. But I think we need to take our time. Not strain and do it, but just like allow your body. And, there's so many amazing tips we can talk about.
Maybe we should.
Yeah,
should we do a few?
Yeah,
because I think a lot of people, I mean, there's 2 rows at the pharmacy of digestive aids. So there's a lot of people suffering from this. And I think it's easier than they think. For instance, we need fiber.
Yes.
And fiber, I mean, I think in some ways scares people who have stomach aches.
Right, because they think they're going to get they're going to get reactive.
Bloated. And they are. And like, that's the thing. Here's what they need to hear, right? If you go to the bathroom like normal every 6 days or let's say every 4 days, you need 25 grams of fiber. Of course, you need omega-3s and fruits and vegetables and whole grains, but we'll talk about that. If we're just talking about fiber, and you go to the bathroom every 3 days normally, if you have 25 grams of fiber, then you won't go to the bathroom the next day. And that's a very common misunderstanding. I ate the fiber. What's going on? I'm more bloated today, because going to the bathroom is a habit and you go every 3 days. So eat the 25 grams on Monday, eat the 25 grams on Tuesday. You will go to the bathroom like you normally do. You will go to the bathroom like you normally do on Wednesday, but you will be still constipated. You continue to have the fiber on Thursday. Now you're going to go to the bathroom on Friday. So you just gained a day. And you continue having the fiber, you now keep shortening the distance of when you go to the bathroom. And it'll take about 2 or 3 weeks of consistency before you're not reacting to the discomfort of fiber.
Because you're training. You have to retrain your bowels.
Yes.
And I keep telling people, like, if you retrain your bowels, you won't get jowls. I'm telling you.
Is that the secret? Because my bowels are fine and I'm getting jowls. I'm 51.
No, you look great.
I need an appointment with you.
I talk about poop all the time because it's really anti-aging secret, but nobody wants to listen. But whatever.
And people, suffer from heart attacks all the time from holding their breath and pushing. And it's
wow.
Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's one of the most common causes.
On Monday mornings.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah, it's probably. Yeah, it's so going to the bathroom is a habit and you need to retrain, and it can take months, but you have to stick with it and it's worth it.
Okay. You heard it here. All right. So we talked about eat when you're hungry.
Yep.
Eat what you love.
Yes.
And now eat without distractions. Dum, 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 dum.
Yeah.
So put that phone away. iPhone.
Put it away.
Yeah.
And like we could be sitting here talking right now and also be able to determine if I have to go to the bathroom or if I'm hungry. So I can be distracted and know all the things, right? And make that decision. And so it is true that you don't have to be so, that you always have to be without a distraction. But in the beginning, again, it's a training. And so really knowing what your body is telling you. And remember that most people are emotional eaters. And so they're eating just because their mind is telling them that food's a good idea. And what's happening when we're stressed is our body's responding in under 10 seconds. We're getting about 1,400 different sensations that lead all of our neurotransmitters, enzymes, and blood to the extremities so we can run from the lion that came into the room. And our hippocampus is being tipped off. And this is the problem. So in under 10 seconds, when we feel any stress, our hippocampus is saying, oh, remember the last time you felt this way? You ate.
So then it becomes a habit. It's kind of like, what was that? The dog salivating?
Yeah, Pavlov.
Pavlov's.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're just training yourself to like need food when you're stressed.
Exactly.
So that's why.
If you can remember that food is fuel, you can find your mind when you're having the thought that food is a good idea. You check in with your physical body.
Right.
You identify that you're safe, that you know that food is coming, and that maybe you're having the thought because your chest is tight.
Right.
Now you have the ability to say, oh, this is stress. What would be the proper way to handle this moment? Right? And now we take away the emotional eating in this rule. And we also eat because we have physical cravings. And I would say if it's a salt craving, that you should talk to your doctor.
Right.
There's like liking salt and then there's craving salt.
Right.
That's not something to be taken lightly at all, I don't think. But sugar cravings, I think, are just kind of like a heroin addiction. And nobody wakes up and thinks, today I'm going to become addicted to heroin, right? It just happens with a cupcake.
Yes.
It just happens. And all of a sudden you can't think about it. And you're looking under any rock for something to satiate whatever it is you need. But that's not hunger.
No. Yeah. And it's that stress response because we know that cortisol is, prevents ghrelin activity or it promotes ghrelin activity.
Yeah.
And it prevents leptin activity. Leptin is the hormone that makes you feel full. So actually, when you're stressed out, you're not allowing the leptin to tell your brain that you're full.
Right.
So, you're getting this circular anxiety, eating, and then you're anxious because of food, then causes cortisol fluctuate, because we know sugar causes
Well, what happens in under 10 seconds,
Yes.
it tips off the hippocampus.
Right.
Then it tips off the pituitary, and then it goes to the adrenals. All this happens in under 10 seconds.
Yes.
And the adrenals are where your sex hormones are, your cortisol level, and your insulin levels are. So now suddenly you're a little out of whack.
Yeah.
But if you do take the time to smell your food, or start with this even, your vitamin C drink, what happens is you don't sniff your food. You inhale the smell, right? It's a long inhale. And what ends up happening is that calms your nervous system.
Right.
We really need to be working on calming our nervous system and knowing where our mind is and why we're thinking about food.
That's the key. I think everybody needs to, at the end of everything, everything is caused by stress.
Everything is caused by stress.
From PMS to perimenopause to menopause to postmenopause, I've lived through it all. And through every stage, one thing becomes clear. Hormone fluctuations change how our bodies regulate temperature, especially at night. When your body overheats, even slightly, it disrupts deep, restorative sleep. The kind of sleep your hormones, metabolism, and mood depend on. That's why I can't live without my Rani Lounge pajamas. Their advanced technology activates natural fibers, making the fabric moisture-resistant, naturally fresh, and ultra-breathable, allowing your body to stay cool and regulate temperature the way nature intended. Better temperature control means deeper sleep, better recovery, and a body that feels truly at ease. Whether at home or traveling, staying cool, fresh, and comfortable has never felt so effortless. Go to RaniLounge.com, that's RaniLounge.com, and use my code HealthyDog15 and get 15% off your first order and experience sleep the way it was meant to be. Okay, so eating without distractions, putting away the phone, because we know when we eat with distractions, we're not able to digest.
Right.
Fully.
Right. So put everything away and just be present with your food. And like I said, most people think they love food. And so that's the challenge. Do you?
Do you really love your food? Then
be alone with it.
Yeah. Go on a date with your dinner.
Please.
Okay, I like that. The other one you said, now another rule is take 10,000 steps every day. I love that rule because I live by that rule.
Yeah. Why? When did it start for you?
Oh, I've been doing it before the whole, we were tracking it. I knew that I'd read a bunch of research on, walking and movement.
Right.
And so it's always been something I've just done.
Good.
We're so lucky we're in this field.
Yes.
So we're constantly aware of what's happening to our body. So yes, the 10,000 steps is a good one. How did you come up with that?
You know what? No one's ever asked me that. That's so funny. Supersize Me. Do you remember the movie?
Oh yeah, with the elevator, taking the stairs versus the elevator.
It was a McDonald's.
McDonald's one,
yeah.
Yes.
And what I learned from that movie was that the average American was getting about 3,000 steps, and they were obese.
Right.
And so I was, talking to my clients all day long, and I watched that movie and I started recognizing, that's about right. And so what I've also noticed is that really the magic number from science that we know is 7,000. We know that we need 7,000 every day to reduce our risk of sudden death by 50%, reduces our risk of Alzheimer's, almost every disease. But in the 25 plus years that I've been doing this, if you want to maintain your weight, it's 10,000.
Okay.
It's 10,000. Yeah. So exercise doesn't help somebody lose weight. It helps you stay the same weight. And we really need that practice while we're trying to lose weight to be able to manage the weight maintenance piece. So it also helps with your circadian rhythms, right? Your wake and sleep cycle.
Yes.
Your mood. Like nobody ever regrets going for a walk. Might be hard to get to, but it boosts everyone's mood.
He certainly doesn't. He loves going for a walk. This dog can walk for hours.
And you already said it. It helped with his bowels.
Yes.
So we need it for digestion. And it also is really important for blood sugar management. And I'm sure you know, but blood sugar management is the key to longevity and decreases your risk of almost every disease by 30%. So those steps are doing so many things. And I hate to even call them steps because if you talk with your hands and if you're, fidgeting or lifting weights, that counts too. You just need like 10,000 movements every day.
Okay, well not that we're going to calculate that, but if you have you can see it on your phone.
Yeah.
How many steps that you've had, there's an app on your phone that you
called
can
the
check.
Health app.
The Health app.
It's been keeping track all along.
Yeah. And also for those ladies and gentlemen listening out there, we know that sugar causes advanced glycation end products, right? So it causes your skin collagen to sag. So if you're not going to do it just for preventing many diseases, do it because it's going to also prevent you from your skin sagging. It's a really big one. That's why, women in our 50s, the ones that are really keeping our blood sugar metabolism as a primary anti-aging solution versus creams and, all the kind of things that we stick on our face.
Yeah.
They're good. They're needed, but it's an inside job.
It is an inside job.
The skin aging is an inside job. And so I think that's a really important step, to think about. Now, the next one seems like going back to the 1980s, right? We were told to drink 8 cups of water a day. And honestly, nothing has changed for me. Like I'm in my 50s, you're in your 50s. 8 cups a day is the way to go.
Yeah, it's still hard to do sometimes. Sometimes I'd rather have more coffee than water.
Yeah.
So I do have to force myself.
So let's talk about that. If you have coffee, how much water do you have to replace that coffee that's created that diuretic of all that water you drank?
Good question. It's 2 cups of water for every 1 cup of caffeine.
Yeah.
And I would also say for every 20 pounds overweight, you need 2 additional cups of water. But I will tell you that the average American is not getting that much water. And so that's why I say 8 cups, because we need at least 8 cups.
So you need a minimum of 8 cups. And
that
if you're overweight, you have to have more.
Yeah. And people say, I drink herbal tea, that doesn't count because it has tannins. It does. It will count, but it's not what I count as 8 cups. Because if your body has to break it down at all, then I don't want to count it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then the next one, this is my favorite one.
Is it?
7 hours at least. I get at least 8 hours. I need at least 8 hours. But
it's 7 to 9.
Okay.
No, it is 7.
Rule
6 is to get 7 hours of sleep. The average American, again, there's also 2 aisles at the pharmacy for sleep aids. We have a major problem with sleep. So we can't fall asleep, we can't stay asleep, and we can't wake up feeling rested. And so we need at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but I put 7 because 9 feels really, really hard. And 8 is really the greatest number.
Yes.
But the average American is getting 6.5.
Okay.
And when you are hungry, when you are overfull, when you don't have enough sleep, that's stress.
Mm-hmm. And then that makes you want to, increase your cortisol, suppresses insulin, and
lowers
then
motivation.
You go for the cookie jar.
Lowers motivation. Yeah, exactly. Because you're more inflamed. Melatonin is really misunderstood too.
Oh, I love melatonin. It's the best antioxidant.
It's a hormone and an antioxidant. Yes. I don't love telling people to take it because that actually tells your brain to stop making it.
Right.
But I want people to know that they can produce it and they just need to do a few things like lowering the lights and having a set bedtime and a set wake up time, just as if you were a kid, right?
I think it's super important to also say that you have to have complete darkness in your room. So you have to have those blackout blinds because it doesn't work unless you get super dark and then you're exposed to the light because your pineal gland needs to see that.
Yes. So I feel like you need to talk more and more about melatonin. People don't understand it and they're missing out on really good, nourishing sleep.
Yes. Sleep is, I think, the most important rule in some ways because it kind of
I think so too.
It sort of helps the whole the whole dynamic in terms of you're hungry,
right?
If you're not sleeping enough, you're gonna crave more sugar and it's just gonna go round and round.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I agree.
I want to share something that could literally slow down how you age inside and out. Let's talk about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT. You've probably heard of it being used for athletes or wound healing, but what you may not know is the latest research is showing powerful benefits for cellular regeneration, brain health, and even reversing some biological markers of aging. Hyperbaric chamber works where you breathe in oxygen at higher than normal pressure. This process stimulates your tissues with oxygen and beyond what your body can normally get in. That extra oxygen jumpstarts your cells, helps natural repair processes, reduces inflammation, and boosts collagen production. It even stimulates the growth of new blood vessels. Studies have shown improvements in telomere length, which are kind of like protective caps on your DNA that shorten as you age. Longer telomeres, that's linked to healthier aging. If you're feeling the effects of aging, maybe it's slower recovery, brain fog, or skin that's lost its luster and glow, hyperbaric oxygen might be a powerful tool to help you feel sharper, stronger, and more vibrant. Go to oxyhealth.com, that's OXYHEALTH.com, and type in discount code HealthyDoc10 for your first order. Did we miss anything from these rules here?
No, that's it. Those are all 6 rules. And, it's interesting. I wrote this book in 2020.
Yes.
But I've been practicing this for, 25 years or what more. And just recently I saw the longevity pillars. Are you familiar with them?
No. What is that?
Well, like I have 6 rules. There's longevity pillars that are actually 8. And they're 6 of them are the same as mine. And then the other 2, one of them is meditation, which I think being mindful is that piece. And the last one is social connection, community.
Right, which we've so disconnected since COVID.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting, just to think about how you take care of yourself. And it's, I think, easier than most people think.
Yeah, it is. They're very simple steps, They're not, you don't really need to, change your whole life. You just have to start slow and then make it a habit, almost like a muscle memory, right? And then once you make that muscle memory, it becomes like... It becomes very easy to do because you're used to doing it all the time, right?
Well, we're sleepwalking about 47% through our day. So we're doing automatic behaviors. And that's why we're finding ourselves in the kitchen eating something when you had no intention of even doing that. Right. But somehow you became emotionally triggered and there you are. So our brain doesn't like to do things that are hard. And so it just will kind of sleepwalk through the motions. And we need to be intentional and alert to change. But the piece that you brought up that was really interesting, and you do it with such a smile on your face, which I love, people who are doing these rules and who are living this lifestyle, they don't find it hard.
Right.
The people who aren't doing it think it's hard. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is it's a paradox.
Right.
And so if you can just start practicing, then all of a sudden when you start feeling better, and that's more rewarding. Than the way
you're good at it, and it's not like so difficult to do it. It just becomes because it's a reward as well, because you feel better when you do it.
Yeah.
Not at the beginning.
Do you think you have to be perfect?
I don't think you have to be perfect. And even in my book, I call it the 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's somebody's birthday, it's your birthday, you want birthday cake, great. Right. People that are, for example, we have a mutual friend that's, celiac.
Yeah.
And she cannot have gluten. So in that particular case, she has to have a specific diet, for safety reasons, for her health. But I think that we can just allow ourselves to just eat what we want, when we want, without putting that pressure on ourselves. Yeah. It's almost like you can tell your kids that they can have a drink, when they turn 19 and you have a drink with them or something, or 21.
21 in the U.S.
Sorry, I'm thinking Canadian. It's almost like when you put somebody in a corner, in the naughty corner, and say, you can't do that, it gives them this visceral response of, oh, I want to do that even more.
Yeah.
Or oh my God, I can't do that ever again.
Right.
And so whenever you're told you can never do something again, I think that's where we lose the attention of people.
Yeah.
And that's with everything in life, right?
I think that's the problem, is people with this diet mentality or who are looking for success think it's like on or off.
Yeah.
And they don't see that it's progress.
Right. They don't. Exactly. So talking about all of this, I want to ask you a question before I forget. Yeah. you have been so instrumental in treating so many people with this. And you also have a master's in metabolism health, right? Did I say that right?
It's clinical nutrition.
Clinical nutrition.
And metabolism.
And metabolism, which is, that if anybody just studies that on its own, it needs to be studied because it's the whole foundation to why people gain weight is really understanding the metabolism. It's like a balancing scale in your body. And there's so many different mechanisms of actions that takes place. When you've helped people lose that weight and keep it off, you're using these rules.
That's it.
Okay. And what else are you coaching them with? Like, give me an example of what a patient's experience
here's I want to say that if I can get a client to follow these rules at 90%, they're going to lose between 1 and 3 pounds a week. If they're going to follow the rules at 80%, they might lose half a pound to 1 pound a week.
Okay.
60%, a C average, they're going to stay the same weight. If it's under a C, they're going to start gaining weight. So I might start off a session with my clients, just having them give me a letter grade. How mindful were you? Did you know where your mind was before you ate every meal this week? Did you eat when you were hungry? Did you start with half? Did you wait 15 minutes? And we'll go through each one of these rules. They'll give themselves a letter grade. And then they also send me like their weight and body fat charts. The body fat is the key to the whole thing for me, but they'll send it. And so yesterday I had a client who she gained weight and it turned out she was getting a D average. And so it was really interesting to see through this conversation, this is what you need to be working on this week. And you really do need to be practicing starting with half and, when you're hungry. So it really makes it easy to kind of see how a client's doing.
Okay, I like that, especially the report card. One last question, or second to last question. What are your thoughts on Ozempic?
I think it's a life raft for many, 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 many people.
I agree.
It's going to change everything. It's going to also give people the power to help themselves in a whole new way. So it helps blood sugar. It helps, reduce weight. And I think every disease is weight related or stress by weight related.
Yes.
And so we're going to eradicate so many different medications and diseases. My only problem is that I wish that most people who are taking a weight loss medication were also following my 6 simple rules. They were knowing where their mind was, because it's not going to fix an unhealthy relationship with food. And if people are losing weight and they're paying attention to the number on the scale, but not the body fat, they cannot maintain it. So every single 1% of body fat is equivalent to 3 pounds. And so if you were to lose 6 pounds, and you should have also lost 2% of body fat.
Right.
And so we have to pay attention to, are you losing fat or muscle? Every pound mostly is going to be water, fat, and muscle unless you're doing your 10,000 steps.
That's why they call it Ozempic face, because you're like losing that really important fat and also the muscle atrophy that happens with it. So you've got to do it right.
Got to do it right.
And you have to be under the supervision, get a naturopathic doctor, who really knows, or a nutritionist or a dietitian, functional medicine practitioner that really knows what they're doing with it. I've got some patients, quite a few patients on it, and I've got them on a microdose of it. So I'm microdosing the semaglutide and measuring all their inflammatory mediators and getting them to eat really healthy, hydrate. Hydration is key for anyone on Ozempic. So
also the mental loop that somebody has when they're drinking water is actually important too.
Right.
Because water picks up on our energy.
Okay, yes.
And so like if you're stressing out or you're saying negative things and you're drinking water, I'd be very careful with that. I think that water has such healing properties. So if you're drinking water and you're sending loving messages to your cells in your body, it's going to be a game changer.
I know somebody that did that with plants.
Well, we have a mutual friend who is also, plants, can detect energy and feelings and can communicate with each other.
I say loving things to my plant every morning.
Yeah. I'm trying to rebirth some plants right now. I'm going to let you know how that goes.
Okay. Well, we'll sing them hymns and all sorts when we get together. This is what you're really hungry for, is a 6 simple rules to transform your relationship with food to become your healthiest self. Kim Shapira. Everybody should get this book because at some point, some of us have gone down a rabbit hole of eating like a keto, paleo. I mean, there's so many diets out there that you couldn't even write a book if you wanted to on all the diets. It's just so confusing. This is very easy to read. Like I said, it's like a book that you can read over and over again. And this one, I specifically put a bookmark in because eat what you love. I think it's so important unless it's making you sick. So like really listen to your body. And I know we hear that a lot, but that that really got to me. And it was a really good take home message for me. Before we go, Kim, I have a question for you. I ask all my guests this because I'm just curious, right? You know that the love languages?
Yeah.
What would you say your love language is?
Maybe I don't know them enough.
So they're quality time. Oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting. Quality time, gifts. Because I know gifts is not mine. Oh, acts of service.
Interesting. I would say gifts.
Gifts? Everyone I talk to is gifts. Mine is like acts of service and quality time.
I'm changing. I want it to be that. Like I'm becoming the essence of that. Starting to see that, but gifts.
Well, yeah, I'm so glad you said gifts because I actually have a gift for you.
Oh, really?
Can you guess what it is?
No.
Oops, where is it gone? Oh, it's right here.
I'm so excited.
I am going to give you a comprehensive digestive stool analysis.
So exciting.
And it's going to be a 1 day, it's in this bag,
Okay.
It's for you to take home. And it's a 1 day stool sample. It's going to measure your full short chain fatty acids,
Great.
how you're digesting, if there's any candida in there, if there's any, it's going to measure all the bad
it.
bacteria, the good bacteria. And that's a gift from me to you.
Thank you.
Of course, sharing is caring. And it's going to allow me to see what's going on with your gut so that, I know you've come here as a guest and I'm super grateful and you're so knowledgeable, but I want to take care of you.
Thank you.
Let's get you doing that stool test and we will come back to each other after the results and we'll talk about them.
I'm getting a gift and an act of service. Thank you.
Absolutely. Kim, tell us where people can find you.
They can find me on all the socials at Kim Shapira Method. I'm everywhere.
At Kim Shapira Method. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.